What if the things you hate most about your personality right now, your irritability, your indecisiveness, your inability to feel joy, aren't actually you at all? What if they're just symptoms of a brain stuck in survival mode? Think back to the version of you that could say yes to last-minute plans without feeling overwhelmed. The person who got excited about good news instead of scanning every text for hidden meanings. Now compare that to who you are today. Someone who needs 3 days' notice just to grab coffee, who triple checks every email, who feels exhausted by the thought of responding to a text message. That gap isn't a character flaw. It's your brain rewriting your personality behind your back. Chronic stress doesn't just make you tired or anxious in the moment. It actually hard codes temporary survival tactics into permanent personality traits, and it does this without asking your permission. Why? Because your brain is trying to save energy. Every time you face a threat, deciding how to respond costs cognitive resources. So your brain automates your defenses, turning conscious survival choices into unconscious personality defaults. It's efficient, but it's also why you can't just snap out of it when the crisis finally ends. In this video, we're breaking down 7 specific ways chronic stress changes your personality over time. These aren't signs that you're broken. They're survival adaptations your brain made to keep you safe. Our mission is to make psychology accessible, so you can stop fighting against your own brain and start the process of reclaiming the personality you thought you'd lost forever. Does that version of you feel like a stranger? If you're watching this because you feel like you've lost yourself, just type "me" in the comments so we can see how many of us are in this boat together. But here's the unsettling part. Your brain isn't just reacting to stress. It's actually deleting parts of your old personality to make room for survival. And the first thing to go is usually the one trait you value most. The first 4 personality shifts. Number 1, you lose your spontaneity. Remember when you could say yes to last-minute plans without feeling overwhelmed? Now you need 3 days' notice just to grab coffee with a friend. And even then, you spend the morning running through every possible conversation scenario, feeling a low-grade dread in your chest the entire time. This happens because chronic stress weakens your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for flexible thinking, while strengthening your amygdala, the brain's threat detection center. Your brain starts treating everything as a potential threat that requires preparation. So spontaneity feels dangerous, and you default to rigid planning as a way to maintain control. Number 2, you become chronically irritable. You used to be the chill friend, the one who could let things roll off your back. Now you find yourself having a silent, internal meltdown because your coworker used the wrong font in a slide deck, or your partner left a spoon in the sink. Small things that never used to register, slow Wi-Fi, a typo in an email, someone chewing too loudly, suddenly feel unbearable. Does your heart race when you hear a Slack notification? Here's what's happening. Your brain evolved to respond to life or death threats, predators, physical danger, immediate harm. But now it's applying that same full-body alarm system to a tiny digital ping. Your amygdala can't tell the difference between a work email and a saber-toothed tiger, so it floods your system with cortisol and adrenaline either way. The biological response is identical. Your nervous system has lost its off switch. When your body is always on high alert, your frustration tolerance drops dramatically, making everything feel more intense than it actually is. Be honest. What's the tiny thing that's been making you snap lately? Tell us yours in the comments. Sometimes just naming the tiny thing is the first step to taking its power away. Number 3, you experience decision paralysis. Even minor choices start feeling overwhelming. Picture yourself standing in the cereal aisle at the grocery store, staring at 40 different types of granola. 10 minutes pass. You feel a physical sense of dread rising in your chest, a fog settling over your brain. You can't process one more choice, so you leave without buying anything. Or you spend 45 minutes trying to pick a show on Netflix, then give up and go to sleep. This happens because chronic stress depletes your brain's decision-making resources. Your prefrontal cortex is already working overtime trying to manage the stress. So by the time you need to make even a small decision, there's nothing left in the tank. It's not laziness or indecisiveness, it's cognitive fatigue. If this is you, Stop trying to make the right choice and just make the fastest one. Your brain needs a win, not perfect granola. Number 4, you develop emotional blunting. You stop feeling excited about good news because you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. A friend shares something wonderful, and instead of genuine joy, you feel a dull, "that's nice," and move on. This is a defense mechanism. When you've been disappointed or hurt repeatedly, your brain starts automating your defenses, shutting down positive emotions before they can lead to more pain. The first 4 shifts happen inside your own head, but these final 3, they're the ones that start destroying your relationships and your career, often without you even realizing you're the one pushing people away. How many of these are hitting home so far? Give us a number from 1 to 4 in the comments. If you're finding this helpful, hit that subscribe button. We're building a community here where we look at the why behind our behavior so we can stop being so hard on ourselves. The final 3 personality shifts. Number 5, you become increasingly cynical. You used to believe things could work out. Maybe you were even the first person to volunteer for new projects or opportunities. But now, every new opportunity feels like a setup for disappointment. Take Sarah, for example. She used to be the optimist on her team, always excited about new initiatives. Now, when someone pitches a new idea, her first thought is, "How is this going to screw me over?" A new project at work? It's probably going to lead to more burnout. A promising relationship? They'll leave eventually, so why get invested? This shift from optimism to what psychologists call defensive pessimism happens because your nervous system is running a script from a crisis that ended years ago. When stress has been chronic, it learns that expecting good things only makes the inevitable letdown more painful, so it stops hoping altogether. Number 6, you withdraw socially. Socializing used to recharge you, or at least feel neutral. Now it feels like work. You start ghosting friends, not out of malice, but because the thought of peopling feels too expensive. Even texting back feels like a task you don't have the energy for. The worst part isn't the exhaustion. It's the guilt of seeing a happy birthday text from a friend and feeling like it's a chore instead of a gift. This happens because chronic stress depletes your social battery faster than it can recharge. Your nervous system is already maxed out managing the baseline stress, so adding social interaction, which requires emotional regulation, active listening, and present moment awareness, becomes genuinely exhausting. Running on empty means socializing costs more energy than you have to give. This final change is the most deceptive of all. On the outside, it looks like your greatest strength. Your boss might even praise you for it. But on the inside, it's a trap that's keeping your nervous system in a state of permanent collapse. Number 7, you develop perfectionism as a safety mechanism. You start over-preparing for everything, triple-checking your work, and holding yourself to impossible standards. You lie awake at 3 in the morning, mentally rereading an email you sent at 2 in the afternoon, obsessing over a comma. Not because you want to be the best, but because you feel like one tiny mistake will cause your entire professional life to collapse. On the surface, this looks like ambition or high standards, but underneath, it's a desperate attempt to control an unpredictable world. When everything feels chaotic and uncertain, perfectionism becomes a way to create safety. If you can just do everything perfectly, maybe nothing bad will happen. The trap is that perfectionism creates more stress, which reinforces the need for even more control. It's an exhausting cycle that keeps you stuck. Understanding that your perfectionism is a survival tactic is the first step to putting down the heavy weight of impossible standards, freeing up that energy for the things that actually make you feel alive. What's one thing you've over-prepared for this week? Maybe you rewrote an email 5 times, or spent 2 hours making a simple spreadsheet perfect. Drop it in the comments. Let's see how many of us are running on this same exhausting loop. Now you might be wondering, if my brain has already hard-coded these traits, is the old me gone forever? There is a specific neurological reason why the answer is no, but it requires you to stop doing one thing you're probably doing right now. Here's the thing. These aren't character flaws. They're not signs that you're broken or weak or fundamentally damaged. These are survival adaptations. Your brain looked at the chronic stress you were experiencing and said, okay, we need to change how we operate to keep this person safe. The problem is, those changes were meant to be temporary. They were designed to help you survive a crisis, maybe a few weeks, maybe a few months. But when the crisis never ends, your brain stops treating these responses as emergency protocols and starts automating them to save energy. What began as a conscious decision to be more careful becomes an unconscious personality default. The neural pathways get reinforced every single day until rigid planning, emotional withdrawal, and hypervigilance aren't things you do anymore. They're just who you are. But because your brain is designed to adapt, it means these changes aren't a one-way street. Your brain rewired itself for survival, which means it can and will rewire itself for peace once it feels safe again. If you recognize yourself in these signs, you're not alone. And more importantly, you're not stuck. Recognizing these patterns is the first step. But if these shifts feel deeply ingrained, if they're affecting your relationships, your work, or your sense of self, it's worth reaching out for professional support. A therapist who understands trauma and chronic stress can help you begin to reverse these changes and reconnect with the person you were before stress rewired your brain. Conclusion. So here's what you need to remember. That version of you who could say yes to coffee without 3 days' notice? The one who got excited about good news instead of bracing for disaster? They're not gone. They're just buried under a layer of protection your brain built to keep you safe. The work ahead isn't about fixing yourself or forcing yourself to be positive. It's about signaling to your nervous system that the war is over, that it's finally safe to let that spontaneous, open, hopeful version of you come back out. Your brain rewired itself for survival without asking your permission, which means it can and will rewire itself for peace once it feels safe again. But you have to stop doing the one thing that keeps the stress loop running, shaming yourself for these changes. When you beat yourself up for being irritable, withdrawn, or indecisive, you're sending your amygdala a message that you're still under threat. Shame reinforces all 7 of these personality shifts because it tells your brain the danger hasn't passed. Compassion is the only thing that signals to your nervous system that the war is over. It's not about being nice to yourself, it's about biology. Your brain needs proof that it's safe to let go of these defenses, and self-compassion is that proof. If you recognized yourself in these signs, you're not broken. You adapted. And now you get to adapt again, this time back to yourself. Which sign hit hardest for you? Let us know in the comments below. And if you're ready to start the actual work of signaling safety to your brain, watch this video next. I'll show you exactly how to tell your nervous system the crisis is over. I'll see you there.